Welcome to the Service Contractor All-Star Podcast. We talk about how to make more money, grow your team members, and build the business of your dreams. I'm the host, Trevor Maddox, owner of Motion Ops, the premier software for service contractors. Enjoy the show. Hey guys, welcome to the Service Contractor All-Star. I'm your host, Trevor Maddox. This is brought to you again by Motion Ops, simple software for service contractors. So, very excited about today's episode. I've got my guest here, Nate Simpson. Nate, thanks for being here, my man.
You bet.
And
happy to be here.
Yeah. As for a quick little background, guys, Nate Simpson, he is president and CEO of Landmark Excavating. Started in Southern Utah. Well, he's actually at college at Southern Utah as well. Started in 2003, and by 2006, he had a 30-person company that he was growing. And little by little kept bringing on big contracts and big people as potential partners. And as of 2023, they celebrated 20 years. That's a huge accomplishment.
That's awesome.
And currently, you guys have a skilled workforce of 130 employees servicing northern and southern Utah. So, yeah, man, super stoked to have you. This is going to be an awesome episode. I feel like our listeners are going to learn a lot of things just from your experience and everything that you've got. So, thanks so much for making the trip up here. Glad we could chat.
You bet.
So Nate, fill me in a little bit. For context, guys, just for our listeners, so they know, Nate and I go way back, past 3 years now.
Yes.
2.5, 3 years. We're neighbors. So,
yes, we are.
Yeah, they've got chickens at your house. You guys gave us some eggs when we moved in, so that was awesome.
12 chickens and 3 goats.
Yeah, our kids are feeding
2
the goats
cats.
all the time. Anyways, so thanks for being here, man. So glad that you can make it and everything else. We're definitely excited to have you. So, Nate, I think it's good for the audience to kind of get to know you a little bit and your story and your background and everything that you've done. Landmark Excavating, you guys have definitely made a mark in the state as far as, excavating projects go. I see your trucks all the time. Can you tell me a little bit about how you guys got to where you are right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So started the company in 2003, like you mentioned.
Yep.
Started with just a skid steer, loader, and a bobtail dump truck, so a smaller dump truck. Had this vision. I grew up on a farm, always worked around equipment, construction, blue collar,
It's awesome.
Dusty. So yeah, anyways, bought the equipment and just started out small, very small contracts, hauling dirt, doing grading for landscapers and small developers. And my dad's actually a real estate developer.
Oh, it's awesome.
And so I got into that a little bit with him, and as I was looking at it.
Hey, Dad, let me do some of your projects for you, right?
Exactly.
Hey, man, it's the hardest thing is getting your first client sometimes, though, right?
Yeah.
Gets the gears going, so.
So started out with that, doing power trench and services,
Yeah.
and then ended up getting a pretty large subcontract for one of my mentors. He invited me to come and go to work for his larger company as
awesome.
a subcontractor, and went and did that and just grew from there.
So it was really interesting. You started Landmark when you were in college, right?
Yeah.
And you bought your first skid steer and just some different, equipment at the time.
Mm-hmm.
How many college kids are buying stuff like that? What went through your head? You're like, dude, I want to do this
no
business.
idea what I was doing.
You're like, I need to make some money.
Yeah.
Right. So was that scary for you at the time? Just walk us through kind of what you're going through.
It was super scary. So bought the equipment in April, and then got married in August. And,
oh, wow.
And moved to Southern. So I had some contracts going on in Utah County.
Yep.
But moved to St. George with my wife,
okay.
brand new wife, to go to school down there, and to just go down there and have no contacts.
Yep.
No work, and holy crap.
And now you got this equipment you got to pay for.
I got this equipment I got to pay for. I've got this little family I've got to support.
Yep.
And just went to work. So just started building off of relationships. And one of my very first contacts was we'll put you to work. So I was grading off lots, picking up literally construction garbage and hauling it off.
Doing whatever you could to go get a buck, right?
Yep. Yeah, working, 30, 40 hours a week, going to school full-time.
Yeah, while you're at school
part-time.
full-time. Yeah. And, how do you make your first few contacts? How do you get that going? I think that's something that's which is pretty interesting to dive into. So
Yeah, it was part of the development that we were living in. It was this massive planned unit development.
Yep.
And I just went to the guy in charge and said, "Hey, here I am. This is the service I have to offer." And he was like, "Perfect. I need you."
Yeah.
And went to work like that.
That's awesome. Something that's interesting. So you and I are neighbors.
Yeah.
You know, we have a handyman remodeling company. You've got a excavating company, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say aside from that, it's a pretty white collar neighborhood.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few home builders in the neighborhood.
Yeah, there's a few, right? So anyway, I mean, what's your take on the dynamic? I mean, there's always this debate of like white collar, blue collar, stuff like that. I mean, do you see things different between white collar, blue collar? Like, do you think personalities are maybe a little different sometimes, or?
Yeah, I mean, personalities can be different.
Yeah.
There is some stereotypes for sure.
Yeah.
One of the things that we struggle with in our industry, what we're struggling with right now, is replenishing those that are retiring.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot of parents that are raising their kids to be construction workers. And
Very true.
so there's a stereotype for that. So what do we do to educate the population of like, hey, you can come into construction and yeah, it's blue collar work, but it's great work and you can build a great career in blue collar work just like you can in white collar work. It is interesting with AI, you know, there's a lot of threats to a lot of the white collar work and not as many threats to blue collar work.
It's going to be at least 30, 40 years before blue collar's even, you know, AI is even a threat to it, man.
Right.
I think it'll take a while. So, yeah, I agree 100%. You know, your writers, AI is going to start taking over a lot of those jobs pretty quick. It's going to start taking over even some copywriting, some probably some marketing jobs soon.
Right.
It'll start taking over some sales-related jobs soon.
Absolutely.
There's a lot that AI is able to do, but we're still, and the reason why I say 30 years, 40 years, it's like, I mean, the amount of AI that has to be built, it's robotics. It's AI inside of the robotics. They need to be able to balance and lift and a whole bunch of other things that the human body can do that I think it's a long time out for AI. So I agree with you. I mean, if you have kids right now, I think one of the best things you can do is start pushing them more towards blue collar. And there is an aging demographic.
Mm-hmm.
People are aging out. With that, there's more opportunity for the kids that are interested in it because just supply and demand. And so the more interested they get at a young age now.
And don't get me wrong, it's difficult work.
Yeah,
I mean, what we
tough.
do is dirty, stinky, you know, hazardous stuff day in and day out. But it's also an essential part of our communities.
Has to happen.
It has to. If you want to flush your toilet, if you want to drive down the road, there has to be services like,
if you want a house to live in.
Yeah, like what contractors and our companies provide.
Yeah, it's one of the most essential things out there. You know, I always say there's a few constants in life, but one of the biggest constants is you need homes, and those homes are going to have atrophy and need to be fixed and repaired and replaced and everything else, right?
Yeah.
And so awesome. So yeah, I mean, your business, man, it's an awesome business. You've seen some growth, right? So started off kind of just doing a few odd jobs, doing some projects for your dad, you know, subcontracting.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're up to 130 people. Is that correct?
We're right between 130 and 140.
Okay.
It's kind of where we've been bumping this summer.
That's great. And, you know, do you want to walk us maybe a little bit through like the stages of growth and kind of what you did? Because I think your business in a lot of ways for our listeners, you're definitely at a place where a lot of them like, man, I wish I can get there where I've got, you know, 50 people, 100 people, 130 people working for me. But it's like some are like sitting at like 2 or 3 guys. It's like, how do I grow this? Right. So like,
it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really difficult. And I mean, one of the most difficult things for me was to let go of control.
Yeah.
And because early on, I was the project manager, I was the superintendent, I was the accountant, I was HR manager, I was everything. And at that point we had, 10, 15 employees, and I hated to give up that control.
Scary, isn't it?
It is. And what I realized was I just had to do it. I had some mentors telling me that I had to do it. I had to let go. And then The biggest pusher was really my wife.
Russ, like, dude, you got to let go of this. You
Yeah.
need to hire people.
Yeah, I was officing out of my house, and so it was great because as a business owner, you have some freedom of time, but then you're also working all of the time. So I would put in a 12-hour day and then eat dinner and be hanging out with the family, and then all of a sudden something would come to mind, oh, I need to do this, and next thing I know, I'd been in the office for like 3 more hours.
Did you find once you actually got an office that was better for you to separate it out a little better?
Yeah, that helped quite a bit. And then as I got the right people in the right places doing most of the right things, then you start to feel the exponential growth.
So a rule that I've usually lived by, and I've heard this said from a few other people, is if you can get someone to do 80% of the job that you can do, just get rid of it. Get it off your plate, put it on someone else, have them handle it. Like, what was your perspective when you started hiring? Were you thinking 80%, or you're just thinking, I don't care, just someone else needs to do this? Like,
well, it was more out of like necessity. We
Yeah.
had gotten to a point where it physically wasn't possible for me to do everything that I was supposed to be doing, and so you're sacrificing like either business or health or family life. And so you have to find that balance. So for me, it's never been like I don't want to do the job.
Yeah.
It's more been like I can't do the job. And so then you grow to a certain point, and then it gets to the point where it's like, oh, this is pretty cool because now I'm supporting
Other people.
all of these families.
you're helping them see growth and opportunities that they probably wouldn't have access to without that job,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. A few things that I'm proud of is we do different events throughout the year. And one of our biggest events is during the summertime, we take our entire company and their dependents or significant others to Lagoon.
Okay.
And so we have a Lagoon Day, a Landmark Lagoon Day. And this year, we didn't even have our Southern Division, but just from our Utah County Division, we had over 500 people.
That's
At
amazing.
Lagoon. And
That's between them, family, stuff like that.
yeah, it's
right?
them and their dependents. And so we have a pavilion and just give a short speech because they want to just go.
They just want to go hang out.
Yeah, which is what we want them to
Yeah,
do.
but at least you get a little like camaraderie. It's like, okay, go do your thing.
Yeah, exactly. But to look out over those families and see, man, this is pretty cool that we're able to do this.
Yep.
And that's what I say all the time. This isn't my company. This is our company. We're doing
love
this together.
I love it. Yeah, I think events like that are huge. We're actually taking our team out to Top Golf tomorrow. So
Yes, love
got to
it.
go do the Top Golf. So I think those, creating those magic moments where it's like they can remember it, think about it, everything else. Are you guys doing anything else throughout the year aside from that? I think the Lagoon's a great thing for the team to do.
Yeah, we do that in the summer for our Southern Division. We're taking them to Las Vegas. It's actually this Friday.
It's amazing.
Going to stay at the MGM Grand and go to a Cirque du Soleil
Show.
and have a buffet, gorge ourselves with good food.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it should be good. It was too hot to do anything down
Yeah.
there during the summer. So
And for just quick reference for the listeners, Lagoon's like a big theme park here in Utah.
Yeah.
So it's like our version of Six Flags, but it's a smaller version, but a cool version.
Yeah.
So I like it. So, okay. And, so let's just go through this journey that of what you've done to build this business. So, you start hiring and you're like, man, I'm at 15 people, I'm wearing all the hats. I need to separate out my work, so I'm going to go to an office, so I'm not working around the clock at home. And I get that. I'm a firm believer in working in an office for a lot of reasons, but I think you do need to have some division between when you're with your family, focused on your family, versus when you're focused at work. Sometimes it can spill over quite a bit.
right.
And then, you started realizing you had to hire, and then obviously you went from, at some point, having these sporadic clients to picking up more and more clients.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what sort of clients were you picking up, and what sort of things did you feel like you guys were doing from like getting more jobs and landing more jobs? Like, what things were you doing where you kind of felt the momentum happening, right? Because I feel like a lot of the listeners like, okay, cool, like, what do I need to do to go get more clients? So
Yeah, great question. So started out with subcontract work.
Yep.
So working for
Larger
who
contractors.
you want to be, really, is what I did. And then started to land jobs for my own clients, doing new residential subdivisions, that kind of stuff. And then built up my bonding capacity, so that I could bond for public jobs, and
Yep.
then started bidding on those, started landing public work. So maybe I probably didn't explain this, like exactly what my company does.
Yeah.
So we install any underground utility, so water lines, sewer lines, storm drain, irrigation lines, power, any roadway work, asphalt, concrete, bridges, anything like that's what we do.
It's awesome.
So the private sector is mostly like new development work, where if you had a piece of property you wanted to develop, you would have an engineer design it. You would then, after it's designed, approved by the city, you would call a company like mine. We would come in and turn that raw ground into
Something that's livable.
buildable lots. So it's ready for a home builder to then come and build homes on.
I love it.
The public side of things, it's mostly low bid work. So you have to be qualified. You have to have bonding, insurance, license, like all of that stuff is really checked. You have to check those boxes.
Don't they set requirements too, as far as what you have to pay your employees too?
On federally funded
federal,
jobs.
that's what it is,
Yeah.
okay.
So most of the time when we do a job for UDOT, Department of Transportation, if there's federal funds on it, then they set wages.
Requirements.
Yep. Lots of red tape with those types of jobs.
Course.
Yeah. So those jobs would be like coming into your neighborhood to replace a water line or a sewer line or the roadway, or build a new roadway, widen a roadway, all of those types of improvements. So right now, and it's fluctuated, but for the past 2 years, our work has been broken up like almost exactly 50% public work and 50% private work, which we're proud of. That's
Nice
really
to have
where
a balance.
Yeah, that's really where we've wanted to be.
Because you can have some fluctuations with one and still have another one going strong.
Yeah.
You're not 100% dependent on one or the other.
So started out subcontract, moved into obtaining my own private clients.
Deals and contracts. Yep.
Yeah, as you build up your financial strength, your experience, your bonding capacity, then you can land more public work. And that's what we've done.
Awesome. And you know, your guys' focus, there's a lot of viewers and listeners here that I think they're intrigued by it, but sometimes they just don't know how to get involved into it, or if they want to get into it, like how to do it. So your focus is a lot of government work, a lot of private sector, so probably a lot of builders and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just stuff that I just know our listeners are probably interested in it, but a lot of them are just like, how do I do it if I wanted to, right? So what sort of things do you think would be kind of like advice if they're interested to get into those spaces? Like, just assume it's a clean slate for them. They don't know much about it.
Yeah.
So.
Just starting small.
Yeah.
You know, with like find out what those clients' needs are, because even a big client, you know, if we picked out any of the large home builders here in Utah, they have big needs and they have big companies taking care of most of those needs. But with those big needs also come small needs. And a lot of times that's what their pinch points are. And they don't have a smaller contractor to come in and take care of those needs.
Like those very specific needs.
Yeah.
So that's a foot in the door, right?
Yeah. And even if they are using a larger contractor, you know, like myself to do that work, a larger contractor still has a need for support in those smaller
things.
It's
Like
things.
you can do the main parts of the project, but there's some one-offs where it's like, I'm not gonna have time for that.
Yeah. I mean, we use probably about 25 to 30% of the work we do, we subcontract out.
Makes sense.
So we're looking for those strategic partnerships and relationships.
So find bigger contractors they can subcontract out to. Little by little build up their book of business, their experience, and then they can get larger contracts in the space.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And for you, like, what do you feel like has helped as far as networking with some of these, because I feel like a lot comes down to networking with builders and, some of the guys that, on these contract bids for government. What do you feel like has helped you from that side?
I mean, on the government side of things, there's a lot of red tape. It's very much low bid.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so not so much networking on government, right? It's like,
well, but it comes down to qualifications too.
Yep.
So building up your qualifications. On the private side of things, it's mostly just relationships. And in our day and age, it's all about really responsiveness. I feel like one of our strengths is we're very responsive.
Yeah.
If you call me, if you text me, I'm either going to respond immediately, or as soon as I can, you're going to hear from me.
Yep.
So I would say that, like, do what you say you're going to do, be responsive, and just prove it to those clients that they can depend on you.
I love it. So something that's interesting, another thing that you've done, I think is something where a lot of listeners are like, oh, like, I want to do that someday, right? But like, you're in Salt Lake and you're in St. George.
Yeah.
You have 2 locations. For us and our handyman business, we're in multiple locations. I think making that jump from one location to multi-location, it's kind of like, oh crap, what am I going to do? How do I do this? Like, how long ago did you do it? How did you do it? Like, what helped? What could you have done better?
Yeah, great, great question. So ever since I was down in St. George at the beginning, for a short period of time, I was only down there for about 2 semesters, so about a year, and then came back to Utah County and really grew the business.
You're like, I'm making too much money. I'm not doing the school thing anymore.
Well, it wasn't necessarily the money. It was more of like the time and like, yeah. I mean, that's another subject. We could get into that.
Okay.
But yeah, so ever since I was down in St. George and then the business grew in Utah County, I've wanted to be back down there. Like, I've just felt a pull. But one of my philosophies has been aggressive organic growth. In my mind, there's a fine line between like
pushing it too much.
Yeah, like forcing it versus like seizing the opportunity that comes to you. So in 2021, it was 2021, I had someone reach out to me, a friend of a friend. They were looking for a contractor to do a large project in St. George. And so we looked at it and we're like, oh, this is great. This would be, a 3 to 5 year project that would be an anchor for us.
For us to go start setting up an office and everything.
So let's do it. So we went and did it. And the interesting thing about St. George is everyone wants to go work there initially. They're like, this would be great because, those of us from northern Utah, we like to vacation.
It's a vacation spot.
So we had I think 3 different managers that essentially relocated from up here to St. George, and then after several months, like, the family, it's not quite working, and so
they're ready at first, and after it's like, no, we need to pull the plug, right?
Yeah. So that was one of the biggest struggles. One of the biggest struggles that we have had down there is just finding good
leadership,
qualified help, trying to duplicate what we have at our home office.
Yeah.
So it feels like we're about 5 years behind what we're doing in our corporate office.
Yeah.
So just trying to duplicate that, and it's been great though.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Now, one other thing that I think is pretty interesting about this, you guys have a pretty cool experience. So you guys already went through one downturn, 2009.
Yeah. And
I know that was pretty rough for a lot of people.
Yeah.
How did that go for you guys? Were you able to navigate through it? Like,
oh man. Yeah, I have post-traumatic stress from it.
Okay. I mean, I think a lot of people in the trades do, so
yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah, for sure. I'm like, looking back on it, I'm so grateful that happened.
Yeah.
That I was able to go through a challenge like that early in my career. And
yeah, because you're only like 5-6 years into it, right?
Yeah, I was. Like
and you're probably like booming, then all of a sudden it's like,
yeah,
what happened to all the work?
yeah, it just disappeared. There was public work, there was private work, everything was going great. I was young. I was kind of thinking I was invincible. Because the market was so good, I feel like myself and probably others, especially those in the real estate market, like you couldn't lose.
Yeah.
You
He
thought
did everything right.
Yeah, you thought you were untouchable. And so what happened with me was I felt it coming. I started to downsize, and then the only work out was public work.
Yeah.
So just to put
builders are pretty well nuked.
yeah.
A lot of the builders were just nuked during that last downturn.
Yeah,
So
it was tough. So to put things in perspective, when you go to these public job bid openings, you turn in your bid, and they open the bid while you're there, and they read the bid.
do they tell you immediately if you get it or not?
Well, you write
Like,
it down,
yeah.
and if you're low bid, you pretty much got it.
Yeah.
So, like in today's market, on the public side of things, on a good day, we're bidding against one other person. On a bad day, we're bidding against maybe 8 other contractors. During that time, 40 contractors. And so...
And margins are probably already squeezed in low bid. Now it's like even more squeezed with that many people that are desperate for work and everything, right?
Yeah.
So
I looked at it, and I was at that point, I had gotten down to just a couple crews, and it was like, you know what? I have a good reputation. I have good credit. My bills are paid. Like, I'm not going to get myself in trouble.
Yep.
I'm not going to bite off one of these jobs. And the only
that you lose money on, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that's a temptation. It's like, and there's a justification to it. It's like, oh, I'll keep my guys busy and everything else.
Right.
But
yeah,
you really want to lose money on a job,
No,
especially larger projects.
Definitely not. So I was like, I'm just going to downsize. So I went down to one crew, was able to pick up some subcontract work for the same guy that's always helped me out, one of my great mentors. And
I love it.
We plugged along on that for about a year. And then at that point, all the work had really dried up, and my guys had an opportunity to go work for someone else. And I was like, okay, I'm going to just hang out and see what happens over the next few years. So, I messed around in some other industries. I did some like consulting type work for my mentor, bidding some work. And then one day he was like, why don't you come to work for me? So I went to work for him for 2 years, and then just one day started Landmark back up.
Started back up and got it rock and rolling again.
Yeah, it never went away. There just wasn't a lot going on, you know?
Not a lot of work. And, right now, obviously, it's a little bit of a downturn, right?
Yeah.
Are you guys feeling it all? Are you guys still cranking through it? Or
We're cranking through it, but we definitely felt it.
I felt it, yeah.
As interest rates started to creep up.
Builders probably slowed down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, just after 2020, things were just so insane.
Yeah.
So
it was just bonkers. You didn't even have to do anything. You're making money, right?
Well, not necessarily. It was, in our industry, it was so difficult to get materials. I know other trades felt that too.
It was wild.
Yeah. Between pipe and precast materials, it was just nuts. We waded through it, and we felt like we were just starting to get things under control, and then interest rates
went up. Builders slowed down a little bit.
Yeah. Luckily, the public work also picked up at that time, and we were able to snag a bunch of public work. And things have been. I'm definitely not complaining. Things have been great.
Been good. So another thing that's interesting about, because with the whole low bid thing, I'm sure there's got to be a strategy to this, right? Like, I've never done it. My dad's a GC. He's done a lot of public work, so I'm familiar about it through him. But, there's got to be a strategy to this, because you want to get the work, but you also want to make sure you make money, and it's low bid. So, what's your game plan when you go into those, right?
It's legalized gambling, man. That's what it is.
Going to the craps table, right?
Yeah, I love bid day. It's a rush. Like, what? what's going to happen?
Am I going to get this? Someone else?
Yeah. And we've had it go so many ways where we've been low bid by less than 1%,
Wow.
which is amazing on a large job. And we've been low bid by 25%.
No way.
Like,
you're like, how are you making the numbers work, right?
Yeah, and here's the thing, like with public work, you're dumb if you're high, you're dumb if you're low. Like you're never never the smart guy, but you make it work. Everyone looks at a job a little bit differently. You got to find that advantage that you have on the job.
Yeah, how can you do this at a high level, maybe shave some costs the other guy's not thinking of or whatever, right? So
yeah, it's I mean, margin is part of it, but strategy is the other part. Like how can you increase production? Do you have a closer dump site? Do you have a better material
strategic
source?
Relationship somewhere?
Yeah, it all comes down to that.
That's awesome. I love it, man. Cool. So as far as it goes, we talked a little about company culture. To have 100+ person company, I'm sure there's probably been a lot of things you've kind of done over the years to build that culture and to get people excited about what you guys are doing. You brought up the lagoon things, but what else are you guys thinking of as far as culture and trying to build that relationship with the team?
Yeah, one of the things that I love is our core values didn't come first. They did come first because I've always had those core values, but we didn't identify what the core values were until later on in our company, and which is a testament to those core values being real and not just a plaque that we put on the wall or a screensaver.
Not just something you made up. You're like, hey, here's what our values are. Yeah.
Yeah. So some of our core employees helped us identify what our core values were.
What are your core values?
So number one, people.
People.
We care first and foremost about our people. That's what matters most. If you spend just a little bit of time around Landmark, what you'll hear is the Landmark family. Like you're not just an employee here, you're part of the Landmark family. We care about your professional career, we care about what's going on at home. It's important for I look at Landmark as a vehicle for to take care of all of the needs of our employees. And if it's not taking care of those needs, then we need to make adjustments. So number one, family. Number two, grit. I feel like we're a gritty company. I've always been someone that has loved hearing, well, Nate, you can't do that. There's no way you can do that. I love getting projects done faster than anyone thinks that we can get them done. So our third core value would be accountability. We got to hold each other accountable. Just because you're part of the Landmark family, if you're part of the family, doesn't mean you have a free ride. Like you got to take care of the family, right? You got to protect the family. You got to do your part, carry your weight. Fourth is quality. If we don't deliver a quality product, it doesn't matter. Like we're not going to be hired to come back and do that work again.
Makes sense.
For that same client, whether it be private or public. And then our fifth core value is well-being. We care about the well-being of our people and the public. Safety is our number one priority. If people don't go home safe, whether it be the public or our employees at the end of our shift, nothing else matters. It doesn't matter how much pipe you put in the ground. It doesn't matter how much asphalt you put down, concrete, whatever. It doesn't matter. That stuff doesn't matter. It's all about people making it home safe at night.
It's awesome.
So those are our five core values. So we've instilled that, and then we take a lot of pride. I take a lot of pride in our company being like, I could live the same lifestyle at a much smaller company and have a lot less stress, but then I don't have those 12 managers sitting around the table strategizing.
You don't have the impact and everything.
I don't have those 20 foremen, and I don't have 140 families that
you're able to provide for,
that we're supporting.
Sometimes it's worth the stress, the hassle, the headache.
Oh, for sure.
Some of the other crap that comes with growing, just to know that you're helping provide opportunities for people, right?
Yeah.
Building something bigger than yourself. So something that's huge, but for you as a leader, CEO, sometimes it can be a burden. We just talked a little bit about that, right? But they also say that speed of the leader, speed of the team. Like what things are you doing as a leader to develop yourself so that you can help your team, guide your company to where you need to go over the next 5 years, 10 years, all that stuff?
Yeah. Number one, holding myself accountable. Like I said before, if I'm not willing to do the job, then I can't expect my guys and girls to be willing to do the job. So I've got to be willing to do it. And there's stuff every single day that I'm like, oh man, I really don't feel like doing that.
But I'm just going to do it anyway.
But I'm going to do it. So stretching myself that way, I feel like develops myself. Constantly stretching for, what is the as we achieve one goal, what is the next goal? Continually pushing. And I think my guys would say I'm a relentless pusher, to the point where it probably gets annoying. We just landed a great job today, and
there you go.
Yeah,
Let's go.
I got the message, and my very next message was, "Awesome work. Where's the next one?"
Where's the next one? Just pushing it.
Yeah. So doing that, and then probably the biggest thing that stretched me is just bringing in the most talented people in our industry around myself.
Yeah.
They push me because they're counting on me and being good, and they're great. So I better be great.
I love it. And one aspect of your business I think is very important for our listeners to get your insight on this. So you're a very equipment heavy business, right?
Yeah.
So different trades have different levels of equipment. Like some companies, they need their trailers, they need, like different tools and materials and ladders, and sometimes it's heavy equipment like in your case. How do you see that where it's like, oh man, like this is an expensive truck, right?
Yeah.
This is an
Scary.
expensive piece of equipment. So like,
annoying.
like how do you budget for it? Like mentally, how do you like go forward with it? I think there's like the mental aspect of, hey, I need to buy this. I know I'm going to cover it with jobs down the road. And then it's like, are you looking at from like a percentage of revenue each year? I'm going to allocate this. Like, how do you look at that?
Both ways. I mean, I hate debt.
Yeah.
I've had to bring people in much smarter than me to convince me
that debt's okay.
That debt's okay, and it goes back to the post-traumatic stress of
you live through something crazy. It's like
yeah. So I mean, that's the advice I would give. Like, be very cautious of debt. Like, make sure that you're in a position where you're not over leveraged, and worst case scenario, you can get out of that debt very easily.
Have to. Yeah.
And then the other way that I look at it is a percent of revenue. Like we've determined that we need to reinvest about 3% of revenue into equipment. Yeah, which is, I mean, it's substantial, but we've been operating off of that for the last few years, and it's worked.
For some reason, I think it'd be higher than 3%. So
yeah, that's what's worked for us.
I think every business is a little bit different as far as what they need to allocate, right?
Yeah.
For equipment investments. So
yeah.
That's interesting. Awesome, man. So you kind of hit on this throughout our conversation, but I think it's just something that's good. So obviously you got a big successful business, you're doing well, 100 plus people, but you got your family as well, right?
Yeah.
Wife, kids, you got your own personal family life stuff going on. How do you balance that out? I mean, sounds like there's been some struggles over the years, like I think there is with all entrepreneurs, but how do you look at that? How do you keep it straight? What do you do to kind of keep things in perspective?
Number one, I'm so lucky because I've got a wife that's like extremely supportive. I mean, she is the pusher behind any success that we've had in the business. So she's supportive, where she's not like tearing me down because of how busy I am or where my priorities are.
She understands that sometimes there's ebbs and flows of busyness.
Yeah, she understands that. She's extremely patient when we're on vacation, but yet
Got to take a call.
I'm on the phone, I'm on the laptop, whatever.
Come on, dude. Business owners get full vacations.
Yeah.
You never get interrupted, man.
Never. But there's also been a healthy balance. Like
Yeah.
she's been so good to be like, hey, enough. Like,
You need to stop now.
Yeah. So there's been that balance. That's what's really helped me, because I'm not a guy that can self-regulate very easily.
She regulates for you.
Yeah.
My wife does the same.
And then the other thing has just been like trying to keep things in perspective. What's most important.
Yep.
We're just like with my employees and having people and family being one of our core values. Like at the end of the day, what we're doing is important because we're providing for our families, but ultimately what is most important are our families. So it's a tough balance.
Got to provide for them, but you got to make sure they're a priority too, right?
Exactly.
Got to make sure your kids remember you by the time they graduate. So
yeah. I think that as a business owner, you just need to know when enough is enough.
Yep.
There's definitely a time to shut the phone off, put it away,
and just give them everything.
Yeah, undivided attention.
Awesome. It's great advice. Nate, so obviously we've been able to chat here. It's been a fantastic conversation. I think a lot of great insights for our listeners. If any of our listeners want to hire your company, even potentially work with you, or just engage with Landmark in any way, shape, or form, like what's the easiest way they can reach out, connect, or just get a hold of you?
Yeah. So our corporate office, they could call our office. You want me to give the number?
Yeah, just give out the number or even a website. So yeah.
Yeah, 801-554-3255.
Awesome.
And then our website is just Landmark EXC, like excavating.com.
Awesome. It's fantastic. Now, I want to end with two last questions that I think are pretty awesome questions. What's your favorite business book? If you had to choose one business book that's your favorite business book.
Do I have to choose just one?
If you got a couple, list them off, man. Some that have just been game changers for you that you just really appreciate.
That's one thing that I feel like I've done to stretch myself and grow. I love Audible. I don't read a lot, but I listen to a lot of books.
I'm always at 2x speed.
Yeah. 1.5 for me. I don't have the comprehension that you do.
Oh, come on. That's funny.
So,
some people's voices are better at 1.5. Sometimes they sound like a robot. So
I love biographies.
Yeah.
So some of the biographies that I love Larry H. Miller's book, Driven.
I haven't read that, but
it's local.
Yeah, I should read it.
You should.
Yeah.
A lot of great lessons there, and how how he started his career kind of late in his life. He was still working at a parts counter until in his 30s.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
It's wild.
And then bought his first dealership, and then ended up taking a huge risk on the Jazz, and everything just blew up.
He bought into an NBA team at the right time, man.
Yeah. And then he's very honest in his book about the sacrifice that his family made. I think
he put in crazy hours, didn't he?
Insane hours. And then
especially the car business.
Yeah. And then on his day off, he loved softball, so he would travel and play softball too. So I love that one. One that I read a year ago that changed the way I hire people is Who.
Okay.
I believe that one's by Jeffrey Smart.
Okay.
Changes the way you look at your employees.
Interesting.
And filling positions. Crucial conversations.
Yeah, that's a great one. I've read that one.
That one changed my personal life and my professional life.
Learn how to be a little more direct with people, right?
Yeah.
Not so surfacey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Another one is A Million Miles in 1,000 Years.
Okay.
Donald Miller.
It's a great list. I haven't read most of these, so
yeah.
I have to go back and write these down.
Again, it's a biography, and it just puts things in perspective. Like, just that one for me changed how I look at life, and in terms of like what my intentions are. So
that's amazing. It's fantastic. Okay, last question. If you could choose any business person, alive, dead, past, whatever, that you could just spend a day with just to learn from and just experience from or anything, who would it be?
Oh, man. that one's tough too. Like I don't want to pick just
You
one.
can choose a few.
And I don't want to pick the obvious ones. Like I think it would be amazing to spend a day with Jobs or Musk or those guys are phenomenal.
It's on another level. Yeah.
Yeah. But honestly, I feel like I would just choose the mentors that I already have.
Yeah.
Like I value the time with them so much that I would love to just I guess what I would love is I would love a day set aside with them with no other distractions.
Yeah. Just you and them.
Yeah.
Just jamming.
Just me and them and
watching them do what they do, or just picking their brain, or both.
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just hanging out with them, like a little bit of fun, a little bit of business,
Yeah.
a little bit of lecturing where they're getting hard on me, like,
like what are you doing here,
yeah.
dude? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the greatest.
Yeah. That's awesome. Nate, it's been fantastic. We really appreciate you being here on this episode.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, guys, definitely reach out. Nate's a fantastic resource, and potentially a great place to go work, or a great place if you want to hire someone for your excavating needs. So thanks again, guys. It's been another fantastic episode here on the Service Contractor All-Star Podcast. Until next time, we'll see you. This has been the Service Contractor All-Star Podcast. We talk about how to make more money, grow your team members, and build the business of your dreams. I'm the host, Trevor Maddox, owner of Motion Ops, the premier software for service contractors. Join us next time for more amazing content.